Good evening. Welcome to What's Your Story with Sarah Marcopolos. My name is Marcopolos with an S. So say, if I say Marco, you say Polo. Welcome to our show. It's an inspirational talk show about people, their different walks in life, and their story. Our host is Sarah Marcopolos. And our guest tonight is TED Talk speaker Misty Gilbert. Give her a round of applause. She's a transformational coach and inspirational speaker. The music in the background from our DJ Astronaut. You can find his music on SoundCloud. And now your host, and your hostess with the mostest, Sarah Marcopolos.
Oh, thank you so much, Ken. Let's give it up for Ken Bell, you guys. So thank you for joining us. This is episode 2 of What's Your Story with Sarah Marcopolos. And Missy, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you having here. So let's go ahead and jump into it. You have had quite an incredible journey to bring you where you're at today. You've overcome escaping from a cult-like environment from your family. Not only did you have to overcome that all stemmed from trials of overcoming a rape and having to deal with that. So really briefly, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit of some of your challenges that you overcome with that, how that affected you, and bringing you to where you're at here today.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, my name is Misty Gilbert, and I was raped at 17, and my parents didn't believe that I was raped by a man 28 years older than me that was married with 2 twin boys my age. And in our religion that I was born and raised into, any type of sexual misconduct was considered to be a choice, and so they gave me a 7-year sentence of punishment in which they told me that I was no longer the firstborn. My name was changed from Misty and I was called Ethel. They took away all my clothes but 5 outfits, all my jewelry, all my hobbies, all my music, all my books, and separated me from my sister, and we shared a bedroom and were no longer allowed in the same room. I wasn't allowed to be around my siblings at all. They built me a small bedroom in the dining room of the house, and that became my quarters of living. I worked from 6 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. I became the family slave, doing anything and everything, all chores and all cooking. All the while, they were very concerned that I was pregnant because they didn't believe the man in the fact that he said he had a vasectomy. They also didn't trust me under any circumstance in any way, shape, or form. So they took away my driver's license. They took away all my money. They closed all their credit cards and bank accounts because they just didn't trust me under any terms. They also were very, very afraid that I had AIDS and made me go through AIDS testing every 6 months, even though the results were negative every single time. My mother believed that I needed to be humiliated for my conduct, and so she would publicly humiliate me at the county health department, slapping me, mocking me, yelling at me. This was something I endured for 3.5 years of my 7-year sentence. The only way I would be able to get out of my 7-year sentence was if I got married. But my parents said nobody would want me because I was used goods. And if I got married, my wedding dress would be black. So there were all these levels that I had to go through of punishment. And everything that was normal to me no longer was. Everything that felt safe to me no longer was. My bath towel could not hang next to my siblings because I was contaminated. I had to wear gloves in the kitchen because they were so afraid of getting AIDS. And if I got AIDS, I was going to be kicked out of the house. So the fear that I lived in was tormenting me as a person. My life was dreadful. I hated it. And this was when I was 17, but I knew when this circumstance happened that my life was going to become living hell, because prior to this point, there had been abuse in the home, other forms of abuse with my siblings. My brother was tormented to eat food that he could not eat beyond his capacity, and when he couldn't keep it down, my mom would make him eat it, having thrown up in his plate. And then the punishment got worse and worse and worse, to the point that she burned his feet with matches 3 different times. And we were a part of this. We were forced to create nasty food to have him appreciate what good food tasted like. So when I finally went through counseling years later, one of my counselors helped me understand that though I felt my brother went through more abuse than I did, because we were a part of that whole environment and observed it happening and were witnesses to it, and were actually even conduits to it, because we would have to take the food into my brother. My parents turned his bedroom into a prison, took all the furniture out, boarded up the wall, put his arm in a sling, put a mask over one of his eyes, put him in a diaper. Extreme stuff that was very hurtful. So overcoming my childhood was one element, not just the fact of being raised in a cult environment, a religion, where we were a form of every one of them out there. Jehovah's Witnesses in the fact that we didn't celebrate Christmas and we passed out tracts. Baptists in the fact that we didn't drink, we didn't dance, we didn't smoke, and we didn't hang out with anybody who did. Mennonite in the sense that we wore a lot of that kind of attire, and we created a community, which was both good and bad. We helped each other through everything, but it also created codependency. Mormon in the fact that we believed our truths were correct, and that we had the truth and nobody else out there possibly did, and we would argue with our own truths and beliefs around that fact. My mom was born and raised into that. Obviously I was. My dad married into it. And I left that at age 36. And I have not been gone from that environment for very long. So when we talk about transformation and the journey from leaving my childhood at age 20, I moved from California to Texas, and when I did, my parents told me that I was never welcome back because I was leaving without their blessing. I was raised to believe that leaving a parent's home was done only once you got married, not to leave by your own choice, no matter if you're of age or not. So I have not been back to my parents' home. I'm 42. I have no relationship with my parents. My dad passed away in 2013. But the journey of freedom was a process for me. Learning to understand who God really was, and that my parents loved me to the best of their ability. They did not have the ability to love me as I wanted to be loved or could be loved. They had their own demons inside of them that they were dealing with, and they took it out on me. And that was a process that I went through in 2014, following a year of counseling in 2013 when I worked with a coach who really took me deeper. My mom told me if I ever shared my story like I am today, she would kill me. So for years, I lived in intense fear. Not just fear of my mother, but also fear of men. My dad told me at 14 he didn't want me, never wanted to have kids. I knew that, that's how he treated me, so his words were just revelation of what I already felt. So as a coping method, for 16 years, I wore a wedding band on my left hand to keep men away. Not that it does, but it made me feel secure, it made me feel in charge of my life, and it made me feel that I was safe and protected. Until I went through a coaching course, and my coach challenged me to get over my fear of men and do online dating. And so I had a lot of fears to overcome through that process. Beginning dating at age 37 is a whole new experience when you haven't done any of that like most people have in their childhood or teenage years, through high school, college. And so a lot of things that most people would have experienced, I was experiencing for the first time. Being alone with a man without a chaperone, as I was raised to believe, was a huge adjustment. So my journey to freedom out of the cult, out of my home, was a process. And I can't sum it up in one word to tell you exactly how I overcame it, but I can tell you it started with a determination that I hated my life and I wanted something different. And at all costs, I was going to pursue it. And I knew to pursue it meant I had to leave everything that was secure, everyone and everything that I knew, at a risk that yes, what I was pursuing might not get me what I really wanted, but it was worth the risk. Because the environment I was currently in was horrible, was living hell, and I knew that I wanted something better.
Now, thank you very much for sharing. It's a very, very powerful, story to start. When I think of you, I think of a very, very courageous woman who's, really, really overcome quite a huge battle and having to break those chains. In fact, when I think of you, I think of like a Khaleesi from Game of Thrones, breaker of chains. So what was that moment when you had to dig deep down inside of yourself and actually say, no more, I will not put up with this, and I will find the inner strength and courage to leave? So can you tell us briefly about that moment of breaking those chains and saying, I will no longer deal with this?
Sure. As you can tell, my story is quite in-depth, so I will try to keep it brief. But the challenge of leaving my parents was a simple thing. I came to visit my sister who had left on her 18th birthday here in Texas. I came to visit her. I had never been away from my mom for a week. I was here for a week, and after that experience, I knew I didn't want to go home. And I burst into tears the night before I was supposed to leave at a Christian camp retreat, wanting help to figure out how and what I should do. In horrific chaos and turmoil in my heart and mind, I didn't know how to deal with what I was facing. Didn't know if I was making any decision that was right or it was wrong. Had no idea what God's will was for my life, but I knew I didn't want this. That decision was made by simply focusing on that truth will set you free, and I did not feel free, and I was going to pursue truth. That was September 1997. The second time I made that choice was March 2013 to leave the church group I was a part of, been born and raised my entire life at age 36, when a minister at the church said that we had an intolerant God, and my heart just was like, I can't take this anymore, something's not right, we don't, and until I figure this out, I'm just going to leave. But I knew that I would be back, because when you leave, you're excommunicated, so you lose all your friends and family, you lose everything. You're annihilated completely. But I had no intentions of leaving, but the truth is I never went back. So the decision and the choice was pretty simple. I was going to follow truth at whatever it cost me. And I knew that I had to risk everything I had to pursue freedom.
And when you finally did leave and you had to recreate yourself from the ground up. Everything was stripped away. So how did you discover who the new Misty was and recreate that and find out your authentic you?
Well, it came through a catastrophic event right around the time that I left. March 2013, a client hit me in the head twice, and it caused me to go through trauma and have nightmares relating back to my childhood experiences. I didn't want to eat or sleep or work or do anything for 6 weeks, and I decided I was going to get counseling, I was going to get help, I was going to figure out what was wrong, I was going to figure out how to get past this pain. That very process, by opening up and telling my story like I'm doing here before you guys, began my journey of being vulnerable and sharing the truth. Sharing the truth allowed me to experience freedom, allowed me to uncover the lies, the limiting beliefs, and discover deep inside who I really, really was, and where that passion and determination and grit had kept me alive for 36 years, and now I was doing it on different terms. These terms were my own. So there was a catastrophic event that actually happened. It propelled me into getting the very thing I needed, which was outside help, which was people who could love me in my pain and bring me to see who I really was beyond my circumstances.
Thank you so very much, you guys. Just stay with us one more moment. We'll be right back after these messages. Thank you.
Welcome to WOAW Media. I am Katrina Loco, the CEO. I want to tell you about something exciting that's happening here in our studio, in our office. We are hosting workshops, and not just any workshops. If you are an existing business ready to take your business to the next level, we are the one-stop shop. I'm telling you, we got some surprises for you. We've got some things that'll help you take your business past anything that you could even think. I'm not kidding you. You may be a business and you may be saying, I'm stuck. I've come this far, but now for some reason in my business, I'm stuck. What is it? Well, we may have the answer for you, but you won't know until you talk to us and let us show you how to take your business, like I said, to the next level. If you want to start a business or thinking of something you can do to make extra money, we can help you with that too. Join us.
Welcome back with What's Your Story with Sarah Marcopolos. I'm here with Misty Gilbert, TEDx speaker, going over her incredible story of breaking her chains, letting her light shine, and finding inspiration to be able to serve others. So let's talk about that really quick. What was your turning point to be able to know you had a light inside of you that needed to shine?
I would say the turning point for me, understanding that I had a light inside of me, was facing all of my fears. Everything that I was scared of, by actually walking towards it and having the courage to do the very thing that I was taught was wrong, or that a woman shouldn't do, or God would disapprove of. And discovering those limiting beliefs and the lies and the beliefs that I had from religion and my parents, and learning what truth really was, and that truth will set you free. And if you're not experiencing freedom, then you're stuck in bondage, emotional bondage, mental bondage, physical bondage, and those chains will hold you and keep you stuck and living a life that you hate. Creating freedom is a choice. It's an everyday choice. It's not a one-time choice. It's having the courage to over and over look fear in the face and not deny that it exists, but actually walk towards it. The fear that you feel many times can be excitement. Fear and excitement are the same energy to the brain. It's how we interpret the message. So understanding sometimes what you actually are afraid of, you're really just excited about. So discovering, when am I really afraid? And is this true? Or is this a limiting belief that's holding me back? And discovering how to move through that and let yourself become your greatest possible self. In order to do that, you have to love who you are and all the experiences you've been through. You can't pick and choose. You can't separate the pain from the fun. You can't separate the trauma from the things that are exciting. All of it is working for your good. As Tony Robbins says, life is happening for you, not to you. I grew up very emotionally driven from my childhood and abusive situations, thinking life was happening to me. Everybody's doing this to me, hurting me intentionally, causing pain. I had to learn that that's not true. They were acting out emotionally and reacting towards me, and I got the brunt of those things. But deep down, it was helping me find courage, determination, grit, possibility, passion, faith, and dig deeper into those things that were inside of me that I hadn't discovered and wouldn't have discovered if I hadn't had a challenge, because those challenges, those trials, those problems, those difficulties, every last bit of it gives you the ability to create endurance, which creates character and then creates hope. Without those things, you'll have no way to discover that light and that passion inside of you.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you. You brought up something that I want to expand on. Finding your faith. You came from a cult environment that could probably be very harmful to that faith. How did you find your faith, strengthen that faith, and what would you say is your relationship with God?
Well, that's an awesome question, because I would say it's been a process, and one of those ways that I have dug deep into it is by realizing, again, truth will set you free. So if you're not feeling free by your beliefs, if you're feeling in chains, you're feeling limited, that's not freedom. Freedom is love, kindness, and patience. And a lot of people say to me, well, don't you really have to understand who God is to know if you're fulfilling his promises and his standards? And I say no, because love is not full of standards. Love is patient, love is kind, love is love. And even if I were just to focus on those three things from 1 Corinthians 13, I do come from a religious background and know scripture, but even removing those things, if I were to live every day in love, patience, and kindness, that is enough of a challenge for me to do every day with every circumstance that comes my way. I don't need to have a long list of standards. And I feel living in love, kindness, and patience fulfills the greatest promise, which is to be merciful and to love God with all your heart. And to do that, you have to do it through love, kindness, and patience. So my faith has, I would say, evolved since leaving the cult that I was raised in 6 years ago, 5 years since I started my transformation journey. And there are some things I was taught I don't believe, like women are supposed to only wear dresses and not have cut hair or earrings or makeup, clearly. Wearing pants for the first time 5 years ago was a process. I felt like God was going to kill me. I felt like I was going to turn every man on, because that's what I was told women do when they wear pants. I was going to be Jezebel because I wear earrings and makeup, and so a lot of things have to overcome. And cutting my hair for the first time was one of those transforming things that changed me as a person. I realized my inner world was changing, and now my outer world was changing as a part of those beliefs and me processing and becoming truly free. Where am I now with God? I would say that I don't see him the way I was raised to. I believe he's in every living, breathing thing. I was taught that there was good and bad and evil and good people, and God's in everything. If I choose not to see God, then he's not going to be coming forth out of me, but I believe he's in everything. And the heavens declare the wonders of God. I don't have to... every day I open up and I look, and there's new ways to see God. When I have that perspective, when I see that God is out there and he's in everything, I see more of him. I don't see less of him. I was raised to believe I had to put on a shield and an armor and fight the devil and fight the enemy, and I believe the greatest enemy is inside my own head and my own heart, not something outside of me. I was taught to blame and to be protective and keep everything away, because if I have one drink, then I'll have 5 drinks, and if I go out on a date, well, that means I'm going to sleep with them. Like, I was taught like I couldn't trust myself, but that's not true. Like, I'm a very powerful being. I've been given strength and everything to live this life. There's nothing God hasn't given me. And in fact, he says that I will do even greater things than he did. And I know the cult that I came from, if I were to say that in front of them, they would not be able to deal with that verse, because they pick and choose the ones that are appropriate. But he did. He said you're going to do greater things than I did. So I believe that you get what you focus on. If you want to focus on the enemy, you're going to see more of the enemy, and everything's going to feel like the enemy. The world's going to feel like an enemy. Your friends around you are going to be enemies. Your families are enemy. Everything's going to be an enemy. But if you see God and you focus on love, kindness, and patience, you'll have a different perspective. I also feel that one of my favorite passages is, she's clothed with strength and dignity, and intentionally laughs at fear. And I say fear of the past, fear of the present, and fear of the future. I know it says fear of the future, but fear of the past is shame, guilt, and regret. Fear in the present is depression, is procrastination, is stigmas, is labels that we put on ourselves. Fear of the future can be any of those things too. So I like to live by that verse, and those things are the things I hold on to. I believe God is a loving God, but I don't look at it the way I was raised, that God is good all the time, because people like to say that when you're spared from a car wreck, but they don't like to say that when you're not. And I don't believe God can be both. He's either, I believe he is. So if God is good in you being spared, he's also good when you're not. Because he says everything's going to work for my good. So when I come back to all the challenges I face, all the struggles I face, all the problems, all the difficulties are meant for my good, then I will take it that way. I'll embrace my pain. Pain is the catalyst to me becoming free. Pain is a sign and a symptom that something's wrong and it needs attention. The more I resist it, the more it's going to hurt. The more I embrace it, I get endurance, I get character, I get hope, I get faith. And through that process of embracing my pain, I will accept through faith the things I cannot see. If I'm trying to see them, it's not faith. If I have to have tangible hands on it, it's not faith. So my faith is going to be strengthened in the things I cannot see. And if I deep down in the roots of me believe that it's all working for my good, then I have nothing to fear.
Now, some of these, that was very, very powerful and very, very inspirational. Now, some of the things that you have gone through and endured, that can cause some lasting post-traumatic stress disorders that can have lasting effects. How have you dealt with those?
I would say it's a continual process. A lot of people say, when you've been healing, you've done counseling, you've done therapies of many different kinds, you're healed. I would say it's like an onion, there's layers to it. And life is going to bring situations to you, traumas to you, experiences to you that are going to make it feel like something you went through before. I refer to my client that hit me in the head. He wasn't my mom, but it made me feel like a child back in the days when I was young and backed in a corner with nowhere to go. But I wasn't. I was an adult. I had every right at 36 to walk out of his office, and I did. I had every choice to take freedom and to end the contract immediately with no notice. But the feeling felt exactly like something I had experienced before. I believe that traumas are like a fingerprint. They're with you the rest of your life. But I'm not always looking at my fingerprint, and I'm not always punching my fingerprint on papers. But it is still who I am. It's still something's part of my DNA that happened to me, but it's not my identity. It's not gonna define who I am. It has shaped my life. And those experiences are gonna make me more aware of situations. It's gonna make me more open to certain experiences and be closed off. The way that I work through those traumas as they come up or triggers is what I actually call them now, is by walking towards the very thing I'm scared of and realizing that this doesn't have to be defined by a prior experience. If I'm allowing a prior experience to dictate how I live today, I'm letting that past have control over me. But when I realize that I've been through some experiences maybe others haven't, I'm going to experience and react to something differently, I can have love for myself and acceptance. And I would say that love and acceptance is how you actually begin to really shine. You asked earlier, shining, to refer back to that. Until you love and accept yourself and all the pain you've experienced, you're not going to continue to face these triggers. You'll build walls, you'll keep people out, and in a society that says we need boundaries, I agree we need boundaries, but not to the point that we create unhealthy walls. And more times than not, we're so afraid of conflict, we're so afraid of pain, we keep out the very thing that is trying to heal us, trying to move us past where we're currently at. So by intentionally uncovering the layer at a time and realizing there are some things that are going to trigger you. Just this last week, I had a client tell me to get the fuck out of his office. It takes my breath away. It's all I can do to stand there and not run. But I don't let myself run because I'm an adult and I can do this. I'm strong. I'm courageous. I'm determined. I've got grit. Your words do not define me. You're not going to control my life. I know I have integrity. I know I have ethics. because I confronted you on a problem and you don't trust me, nor do you respect me. This is unprofessional. I can see it for what it is. Just like I could see in my childhood when my mom would kick my dad to the couch or then to live at the office because she accused him of having an affair. She was letting things rule and creating more chaos. He was creating more chaos, trying to get me to lash out. I'm in control of my spirit. Nobody can control that but me. So facing those things, walking towards them, stopping and taking 3 deep, long breaths, and realizing I get to choose. I have a choice, and the power is within me. I can either relive this nightmare or I can walk in freedom.
So you mentioned clients. You have a coaching business. Tell us about your coaching business.
Well, my coaching business was born out of my story. I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years, but I started coaching 3 years ago. And I call it transformational coaching. I want you to look at your life with a different perspective, a different lens. We want you to face your fears, your limiting beliefs, your shame, your guilt, your regret, the ways you don't feel good enough, and the ways that you don't think you can do life. And maybe that, matter of fact, you were like me, hated my life. And living a life intentionally in freedom is a choice. It's a powerful choice. It's one you get to choose. Nobody can choose for you. So through my transformational coaching, I guide people through discovering those parts in the soul that they've walled off and they've buried deep. Things maybe like me that you hadn't talked about in years. I give you a safe space to reveal those. I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, but I'm a friend and I'm going to walk this journey with you, and I'm going to help you to have the freedom to be bold, to be vulnerable, to be authentic, to be courageous, to have courage, to do it with love and kindness and patience for yourself, accepting who you are and everything you've been through. And through that process, I want to be a ripple effect into your life. No matter if I get to see you once or if I get to see you several times, I want you to feel love and acceptance, fully and completely, without conditions.
When you're talking about love, there's so much expression there that you have shared with us. Can you give a quick, brief summary of breaking that down, of the real definition of what love is for you?
Love is for me in every thought and action. It's not just one aspect of our lives. We talk about unconditional love, but the minute you make it conditional, it's not love. So love can't be conditional or unconditional, or it's not love. So loving means that in everything, I will choose kindness, patience, forgiveness, generosity. And I believe that we get to do that every day in multiple ways. And we get to revisit things that come back up that hurt us again and choose love. Love is a daily choice. I don't believe it's a one-time thing. And I believe that the more we inhabit love from the inside, it's more easily available to be given to others. We can't give what we don't have in here. If I don't have love for me in my pain, in my darkness, in my traumas, and in my hurt, I can't give it to you in yours. If I'm expecting myself to be something different than who you are, I'm not going to be able to give you love either. I can't give anything I don't have. You can't give from a cup of something that you don't have. So in order to give love, I have to be loving to me. I have to be kind to me. I have to be understanding, compassionate, and have to show myself love and forgiveness. And realize every day is a brand new, clean slate. Completely brand new, clean slate. And if that's not good enough for you, every second is a brand new, clean slate. You can start now. And it's a choice. It's a choice to choose love or feed resentment or bitterness. I get asked a lot, Misty, like you seem like, how could you not be raised in an environment like that and not just be bitter? It's a choice. It's a choice that I know the pain inside, now that I've done all the work I've done, the pain inside of my parents had to be astronomical. Had to be. To deal, I'm not a parent. I've never been married. I don't have any kids of my own. But I have a heart to see children, and I can't imagine the way I was treated. And so I know to do that means that there was intense pain. And so it's a choice to choose love versus pain. If you feed love, you're going to have a well springing out from you. If you feed pain, it's going to take you down to areas of root of bitterness, discontentment, discouragement, depression, and a lot of anxiety.
Well, we'll be right back after these messages with more with Misty Gilbert.
Most people don't plan their financial future because it's complicated. There's so much out there, and I'm here to help you be able to navigate through that and find out exactly what's going to fit right for you. Hi, my name is Sarah Marcopolos. I'm an agent with New York Life, and I office out of Frisco, Texas. When I was a little girl, my father was a life insurance agent out of our hometown where I was born. He was a servant of the people, and I wanted to be that myself and give that to others. I knew New York Life would be the one that could help me do that. It's my clients. Each and every single one of them are different. So I help them not only enjoy the fruits of their labor, but also they'll be able to be secure in their financial future. Because either way, a choice will be made for you, whether you make one for yourself independently or life makes that choice for you. At the end of the day, you'll know you'll be okay. I came to New York Life because I love New York Life. I know what New York Life can provide for you, and I want to be able to be the one to bring that to you.
Welcome back to What's Your Story with Sarah Marcopolos. I'm here with my guest, Misty Gilbert. Just recently done her TEDx talk. So let's go into that really quick. Tell us about your journey to get on a TED Talk stage.
Thanks, Sarah. I have always, I would say always, the last 2 years, wanted to do a TED Talk, but not in a way that I was actually aggressively pursuing it. A friend of mine sent me a link to apply to do a TED Talk here in Texas, October 2018. That was going to happen June 2019. So I submitted my application and got rejected. I wrote about it on Facebook because I'm very open, real, raw, and vulnerable about my life on Facebook and all social media, my blog. And a friend commented and said, "Send me your application and I'll put a good word for you here in California." I had the attitude like, this ain't gonna happen, so whatever. But I sent it, and 10 days later, I got an email that I was approved as the 10th speaker, scheduled for January 2019. And I had 17 days to prepare my first draft. So my whole process, start to finish, was barely over 2 months. So talk about game on. Had a lot of content, but to put it together for a TED Talk in 18 minutes or less was challenging. And I share a portion of my story. My TED Talk is on the art of authenticity, how to show the real you. And I share some of what I've shared in this interview, and that's in this book, Rock Bottom is a Beautiful Place. I'm one of 24 women in here that have a chapter sharing part of my story, and I share how I didn't live in authenticity, wearing a wedding band on my left hand for 16 years because of fears I had in men and the things that I had to do to overcome that, and what it means to be authentic and how to be authentic. It's a bit of a buzzword in society right now, but it actually is one of the most meaningful words, so we need to spend time thinking about being open, real, raw, and vulnerable is how you will be authentic. Open about your challenges, real about your circumstances, raw about the details, and vulnerable about how it makes you feel. That is how you establish connection. We as a society live behind a mask, afraid to share the real you, the real me. We're afraid any environment we're in, any conversation, how are we going to be received, let alone perceived? So we ask questions and answer questions very guardedly, wondering if I really expose the truth, will you accept me or will you reject me? So being authentic in my book is to do it no matter who you talk to and no matter where you are. and to do it consistently over and over in all environments, in all relationships, in all communication, professional and personal. That creates connection. That creates and establishes a relationship and a rapport. So my TED Talk is 17 and a half minutes. I made it, woo. And I talk about the art of authenticity, how to show the real you. I do share part of my story, more details than I've shared in this interview. It is on YouTube, on the TEDx channel. You can search for it by the name or my name, either way. But that process was challenging because I memorized my script. I rehearsed it frontwards and backwards, recorded it into an app, listened to it in my ear as I walked each morning, then would rehearse it 10 seconds in after I heard myself talking, repeating exactly what I heard, and perfected myself. Stood in front of a mirror, watched my body language. I did everything I knew in 2 months. I worked with a TEDx coach to try to help me perfect my message and to make sure my message was very clear and concise. At the same time, continuing to work through those things where my mother said, if you share your story, I will kill you. And I'm sharing my story because there's other people who need help knowing how to work through and overcome traumas, fear, shame, guilt, regret, limiting beliefs, or religious background where you believe you're living a life that you aren't pleasing God if you're not fulfilling all His ways, all His standards, and doing exactly what His will is. I didn't mention this earlier, but one of the life-changing things for me was a series by Stephen Furtick, which is a pastor at Elevation Church. And his series is God's Will is Whatever, rocked my world, changed my life and my vision about how that is. And so all I can tell you is, I want to pass that on. I want to be a ripple effect into everybody's life so that you remove your mask and you don't hide behind all the pain of your childhood or your divorce or your depression or your addictions or anything. It doesn't matter, your bankruptcy, you name it. You might not have had rape, you might not have had abuse, but you've had something in your life that is holding you back from living a life intentionally in freedom. My book is about living intentionally in freedom. I have a tattoo that says live intentionally in freedom. I live it, I breathe it, I be it, and I want you to too.
So 2 more questions before we turn this over to our musical guest. With women who are going through these types of trials and tribulations, what kind of advice would you give them to break their own chains?
Share your story frequently, often, over and over. When I initially started, my goal was once a week to share my story. The Me Too movement is amazing, giving women a voice. But if women don't keep the perspective that it is a we movement, we will create exactly what men have done to us. That is my personal belief. Women need a voice that we cannot now overpower men and make men afraid of us. And I have guy friends that are afraid of women now. They won't sit in their office with a woman because they're afraid of what a woman's going to say or do about them. So women have the power to heal this situation that has come around by opening your voice, talking about what's happening, and loving the men who have hurt you, loving the men who have abused you, and being an example. There's a lot of examples where women were very powerful in the Bible, and we have an opportunity to do it again. And I want to encourage us to be a we movement, not a me movement.
That was pretty impactful. So I remember you telling me that some mornings you have to have some inspirational music to be able to listen to before you can even get out of bed. The best way to start that, why don't you go ahead and list off some of those favorite songs and share with the audience?
So as much as I look to you as having my act together, there are days I don't want to get my butt out of bed either. And I start every week with 5 songs. And it could be a song that I heard out shopping or at a restaurant or was introduced by a friend, that the lyrics really are rocking my world. I choose 5 every week. 2 of those right now are based on my word of the year, which is Unstoppable. So Unstoppable by Red and Unstoppable by The Score are 2 that I listen to right now. And I rotate the others. On days that I really don't want to get out of bed and hit the snooze 3 times, thinking about doing it a fourth time. I listened to 2 different motivational lyric music sets. They're not exactly songs, but they have it together. And one of them is by Trent Shelton, called The New Year, The New Me. And the second one is by Stephen Furtick, I Will Be Confident. And there's times I do it with tears streaming my face. There's times I'm giving myself my own motivational pep talk. But those 2 are my go-tos when life hurts like hell and I'm in a dark space and I'm not sure how I'm going to make it and I don't want to face the day. Those are things I do. But songs that actually just motivate me continually every time I play them. What Are You Waiting For by Nickelback is one of my favorites because we all are sitting here waiting for something and you don't know if you're promised tomorrow. All For You by Ty Tibbins is, or I always screw up his name, is one of my favorites too. Such an impactful, purposeful song that God's all for you. Overstand by Des Perez is another one of my absolute favorites. Very long, 6 minutes, but the message in those lyrics gets me every time. And Witness by Daughtry. Those are 4, I would say, my favorites. I don't have a single playlist. I love to wake up in the morning and hit Pandora, and as I'm hitting it, put a motivational prayer. God, give me what I need to hear in the first song. Because sometimes it's the very thing that'll stick with me the entire day and light my fire like nothing else. And so sometimes it's just fun to have fun with it. You could use YouTube same way, or Spotify, or whatever your favorite go-to is. But music is very impactful. The lyrics rock our lives, and sometimes that's the thing that grounds the roots of us into our day. So starting it that way before I get out of bed is a must go-to for me.
That was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, Misty. Now, on your coaching business, how would you have someone get a hold of you or reach you?
Well, you can go to mistywgilbert.com and you can contact me through my website. You can also contact me on all forms of social media. I'm very active on those platforms. I will reach back out to you and we'll schedule a call. It's usually going to be a video call unless you're local and I can do a face-to-face with you. I do like to do face-to-face connection as much as possible. So I feel that you can connect eye to eye, you can learn more about each other, you read body language, facial expressions, and it feels just like you're really in the room talking with each other. So mistywgilbert.com and on all Twitter, Facebook, Instagram under the same Misty W. Gilbert.
Thank you so very much. So I hope you join us for our next episode. We will have a father-son team, Brian and Abram Smith with estate planning programs. But right now, I would like to turn it over to our DJ Astronaut. He'll take you to the moon and back because his music is completely interstellar.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? This is DJ Astronaut. I am a music producer, so you're going to be listening to 2 separate tracks that I've done. I produce them myself. You can check me out on Instagram at The DJ Astronaut. You can hear these tracks and even purchase these tracks on SoundCloud by searching me, soundcloud.com/The DJ Astronaut. All right? First track, this is called Drumline. I grew up playing the drums in the marching band all the way from elementary all the way to college. I went to Grambling State University on a band scholarship, so you're going to hear some of these drum sounds because it's a part of me. Check it out. That was the first track. We call that Drumline. All right, so the next track is called Mafia. I created this beat because I've been on tour with Jay-Z back in the day, so this kind of gives me that Jay-Z Mafia feel. So the name of this track is called Mafia. You may be able to hear a little bit of Mafia theme sound in it for yourself, but check it out. And that's all you're gonna get. The rest of it, you can check it out on SoundCloud. DJ Astronaut, I'm out. Peace.
Thank you so much for joining us for this program. It was a great show. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, this is Sarah Marcopolos, Marco Polo with an S. You won't forget it. I'll see you for the next show. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.